Brady joined the herd with Colin Cowherd and talked about the Chiefs' quest for a three-peat. Here's what he said. Take a listen.
To win one Super Bowl is extremely difficult. To win two back-to-back, what the Chiefs have done, I mean, as we know in the history of the sport, nearly impossible. To win three in a row, there's a reason why no one's done it. The reason why you haven't won three in a row, because it's hard to win one in a row.
So that's all true, but there's a bit of the roulette wheel factor of this. The first two are already done. That's done. So the question is, can the Chiefs win this year? That's the only question that exists right now. The other two happened already. So if we do want to go to history on it, though, and say the teams that were in that same spot had won two, why didn't they win the third? We can go through it quickly. Green Bay did it. It's just they won three in a row. Well, they won their first one, then they started calling it the Super Bowl, and then they won the first two Super Bowls. Right. So we can cross them out or say it doesn't count, but they did win three in a row. Miami won two in a row and then had the Sea of Hands play in the AFC title game, a famous play. Yep. Pittsburgh flat got whooped by Vegas. A Vegas team had been banging on the door, and then when they had their next chance, I'm sorry, Oakland, of course not Vegas.
But the Raiders.
They got whooped, thank you, by the Raiders, and then got old at that point. San Francisco, I think, was going to do it. And then Roger Craig fumbled with 2 minutes left in the NFC Championship game against the Giants when they had the lead and they end up losing on a field goal. Dallas, San Francisco was flatly better. They had added Deion Sanders. The Cowboys then took Deion Sanders from them and they won it the next year. Denver, Elway retired, so throw it out. And for New England, that was the worst healthy Brady year ever. They were 10-6. They got beat soundly in round two by Jay Cutler in Denver. So my point is this. None of those teams fell off a map except for Denver when Elway retired and Pittsburgh after they had won their fourth Super Bowl and their second back-to-back. Yeah. And a number of them, it was like iconic, legendary playoff plays, the Sea of Hands, the Craig fumble, to prevent them from doing it. I think the Chiefs are as well-positioned as any team's ever been for a
He doesn't even realize that he just proved Tom Brady's point. I'm not sure if they showed this in this clip, but Tom Brady talks about how the margin of error is so small, and it was even small for the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's reality. He's talking about how they could have done it, this team should have done it, but there was this iconic play, or they just played against another team that's been knocking at the door. Well, who's been knocking at the door right now? The Detroit Lions, the 49ers, the Ravens, the Bills, all these teams are knocking at the door right now. If we want to throw out all those other teams, we can say especially the 49ers have been knocking at the door. So to act like that's not possible is absurd. And to act like there wasn't other very specific things that happened to have the Chiefs win all of their Super Bowls. A Jalen Hurts fumble, a Christian McCaffrey fumble, or a Greenlaw injury, or a crazy fumble off of the back of the knee. There was all very specific things that happened that also led to the Chiefs winning their Super Bowls. So then now you're betting on that continuing to happen. And it's not necessarily going to happen. The margin of error is so slim. If the Chiefs blew out the Eagles, blew out the 49ers, both those games came down to the final play, the final seconds. Yes, I understand overtime rules, but you get what I'm saying. It came down to the very end. So clearly shows that things can go the other direction. The Bills could have beat the Chiefs last season. The Ravens could have beat the Chiefs last season. That's a very real possibility. So to act like that it's not this season, that they are just going to be able to win, even though the margin of error is small, is just absurd. Every single Super Bowl that the Chiefs have been in has been close, and came down to the wire, except for one, the one that they got blown out by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady. So it just doesn't make sense. It's one thing, again, like I said, if the Chiefs were winning, convincingly dominating, then I would say, okay, I totally understand what Nick Wright is saying. But he is literally proving Tom Brady's point. That you're essentially, he said it's like the roulette wheel thing, you're essentially trying to get 0-0 3 times in a row. a lot of things have to fall in place for you just to win one Super Bowl. Statistically, it's brutal. Now to win 2 Super Bowls in a row, statistically even more brutal. Now to win even 3 Super Bowls, so I understand what he's saying. The other 2 are taken care of. So now you just have to say, can they win this season? They have to defy the odds again. They defied the odds last season by winning. Every time you win the Super Bowl, you're defying the odds. You have less than a 50% chance to win. That's just no matter who you are. Tom Brady had arguably one of the best teams in best seasons, the Patriots, going undefeated ever. Okay, it's easily one of the best teams ever. No, that's not up for debate. And then they lost to the Giants, to Eli Manning. No one thinks Eli Manning is even remotely, even close to being Tom Brady. No one thinks that. Do you think Tom Brady thought that he was going to lose to a backup quarterback who hasn't even been playing all season, who just got thrown in and had the greatest Super Bowl performance of all time in Nick Foles for the Philadelphia Eagles to win their first Super Bowl? Come on. And now he wants to say the championship. Well, under that logic, lots of teams that have other Super Bowls. The Eagles have multiple Super Bowls then because they won championships too, as he's trying to say that for the Packers. So now we're just moving things all around. Could you imagine if someone else wanted to say that? Or if he was trying to talk about the Packers not being good, would he then be like, well, they technically won another year? Come on. That was comical that he said that, because under that logic, then again, other teams have more rings then, more Super Bowls. So, to me, I wholeheartedly agree with what Brady is saying. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying I'm betting against the Chiefs. It's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in anything. But this idea that it's going to be, put it this way, Nick Wright believes that it's more likely than not that the Chiefs three-peat. And I'm here to say that's just not accurate. There's less than a 50% chance that any team wins a Super Bowl, let alone the Chiefs. That's just basic stats. So it's not more, so by definition, it's not more likely to happen. But this is where Nick suspends reality and just wants to be a massive fanboy and homer and really win over those Kansas City Chiefs fans and just say, yeah, it's more likely to happen. When statistically it's not. And he's all about the numbers. He's all about the math. He loves using math and science to prove his points. And then for this one, he just wants to suspend all of that. For him, when talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, 1 + 1 no longer equals 2. And yeah, it just doesn't wholeheartedly make a lot of sense to me. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think... Well, you know what? I cut this off too soon. Let's listen to see what Brew has to say. I didn't realize that, so hold on. Sorry.
Here's the difference, though. Most of those teams you said were before free agency. So teams stayed together.
No doubt.
Right? And there wasn't that big pot of gold somewhere else you might be able to get. And so, I do agree that the Chiefs have great motivation, are greatly positioned. And I think what helps them is Mahomes has Brady out there that he's chasing. So I think Mahomes is as motivated as you could possibly be. The challenge for him, I think, is going to be making sure the rest of the team is just as motivated. Now, Kelsey, Chris Jones, I think guys like that will be motivated. But a lot of guys, look, winning the Super Bowl doesn't mean as much. Like, for Mahomes, it's legacy, right? For a guy that might have one already, maybe 2, his main thing is, man, I want to set myself up to get paid. Like Tyreek Hill. He's got his Super Bowl.
Yep.
Right? Like, he had to go get that money. Yeah. And I think you got to make sure the best you can that everybody's focused on winning, and don't let, if a guy, understandably, is like, man, I want to get paid. I got to put myself in a position to get paid, that you don't let that infect the whole team.
So, go ahead, Wallace. No, it feels like, I was going to ask you, do you think, I'm trying to think of how I want to ask this. I'll just throw out a hypothesis and you can work with it. If they weren't going to win 3 in a row, last year was the year they shouldn't have won. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It's a
'cause they should
down
be
year for
better this
Mahomes,
year.
and they should be better. Like last year, the years here, like all these weird things happen. All those weird, like the Tony offsides weird play and those opening.
Well, I mean,
season
hell,
pick
I mean,
six.
they fumbled going into the end zone of the divisional round game against Buffalo. You know what I mean? It all gets forgotten.
Yeah.
Like that could have the reason that I think
And the Buffalo Bills dropped multiple passes, missed field goals, 49ers injuries. Like, so we can say this for everyone. So it's just such an absurd claim to me.
the other thing quickly that positions them well to, I think what Brew is saying is correct, but can work in their favor. They're so young defensively that none of those guys have gotten paid except for Chris Jones. So on defense, you know what I mean? The way you get paid is to play at a high level, to play in the biggest games. So you don't have as much of a thing that some other teams have had. It's more of an NBA than an NFL thing, which is guys got their championship and they got paid already and now they relax. Yeah. So many of these guys have not gotten paid at all. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're really well positioned.
Go on a break take?
Yeah, I mean, listen. I think it's going to be a really interesting season. I think a lot of teams got better. I think it'll be interesting to see who stays healthy, who doesn't, what teams took a step back, what teams took a step forward. Texans should take a step forward. Joe Burrow is healthy. Aren't the Cincinnati Bengals taking a step forward? Did the Miami Dolphins take a step forward? So this whole idea that the Chiefs won even though they shouldn't have, they had the number 1 defense in the NFL. I understand that technically they were number 2 statistically. That's why you don't just use statistics. You have to go beyond just the math. But the Chiefs clearly had the best defense in the NFL. And they have the best quarterback and the best offensive coach. So this idea that they shouldn't have been able to win under those circumstances makes no sense to me. And again, you can't have it both ways. Nick Wright can't say that Rashee Rice is amazing, that he's Rashee Jerry Rice, and that Pacheco is a top running back, but then say that he didn't have support. So it's just then what is it? Why did Patrick Mahomes take a step back? Was it because of his weapons? Could be. Will the defense be just as good as they were last season as they were this season? A lot of times you don't maintain that. A lot of times it's hard to keep that trajectory. Just look at a lot of teams. Other injuries happen. So just how a lot of things happened for these other teams to lose, a lot of things had to happen for the Chiefs to win. So again, to just think that means that that's going to now make it easier for them to win this coming season, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Also, Travis Kelce's getting older. He's not going to be the same player. He is getting worse. That is a reality. What happens in that situation? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So again, those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think it's more likely than not that the Kansas City Chiefs three-peat? Or do you think, nope, it hasn't happened for a reason, and it's not going to happen even for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.